It's got it up too. Yeah. 2 to 1. Ready?
Yes. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes. We got water tanks on the easy, but I don't have tap water. I got them locked out of it right now. I just get one of the cold and it's all not drink water. Well, I appreciate y'all having me.
You put your head like
We're going to sing a song and then we're going to take you back there, okay? High five. To class.
Good to have everybody tonight. It's got a good group. We have a guest speaker, Laredo Shannon, and his family. We're glad to have them. We are going to sing a song, and after that song, the kids that want to go to a class are going to have a class. I believe there's a class for the smaller ones and then a class for the little bigger ones. So after this song, we'll do that. We're going to sing the Home of the Soul. If for the prize we have striven, after our labors are o'er, rest to our souls will be given on the eternal shore. Home of the soul, beautiful home, there we shall rest, never to roam, free from all care, happy and bright. Jesus is there, He is the light. Often the storm, slowly are we, sighing for home, longing for Thee. Beautiful home of the ransom beside the crystal sea. Yes, a sweet rest is remaining for the true children of God, where there will be no complaining, never a chastening rod. Home of the soul, beautiful home, there we shall rest, never to roam, free from all care, happy and bright. Jesus is there, He is the light. Often the storm, lonely are we, sighing for home, longing for Thee. Beautiful home of the ransom beside the crystal sea. Soon the bright homeland adorning, we shall behold the glad dawn. Lean on the Lord till the morning, trust till the night is gone. Home of the soul, beautiful home, there we shall rest, never to roam, free from all care, happy and bright. Jesus is there, He is the light. Often the soul, lonely are we, sighing for home, longing for Thee. Beautiful home of the ransom beside the crystal sea.
Well, good evening, folks. Thank y'all for coming out. Whether you came out this evening or not is irrelevant. Y'all probably would have been here anyway. We're going to look at the parable of the Good Samaritan this evening as the kids are leaving. So we're going to be in Luke chapter 10, and that is page number 735. If you have one of these brown NIVs there before you. That's page number 735. Now we call it the Good Samaritan because, well, that's frankly what Jesus calls the man that comes to the wounded man's aid. Is that he is good, is the primary description of this man. Before we get into the parable proper, as it were, along about verse 20 and 30, we got to back up a little bit and get the setting, get the context, see what's going on, because this parable comes up by reason of a question. We're going to begin in verse 25, and it has to do with the question about the Mosaic law, or the law of the Jews in the Old Testament. Verse 25 reads and says, "On one occasion, an expert in the law stood up to test Jesus. 'Teacher,' he asked, 'what must I do to inherit eternal life?'" Isn't that the question we all want to know, though? What must I do? What's the bottom line so that I can get that eternal life? Jesus responds, as he often does, with another question. What is written in the law? See, this man is an expert in the law. He asks, well, what's written there, if you're an expert in it? How do you read it? Specifically is his second question. This expert in the law, this lawyer, as he would be known, not in our sense of a lawyer, but in a religious sense, He answered, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your strength, and with all your mind. And love your neighbor as yourself." And Jesus' response is one of the most interesting to me in perhaps the entire book of Luke. He says, "You've answered correctly." You've answered correctly. He has nothing to dispute with this expert of the law, which I think is really interesting. I mean, if you're familiar with the stories in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, you know how often Jesus and the Pharisees do this, right? They do this all the time. And this time, he comes up and asks him a question. Jesus says, "Got it spot on. You answered correctly." But that's not good enough for the expert in the law. He says, well, let's get to Jesus' response first. He says, "You've answered correctly." Jesus replied, "Do this and you will live." But he wanted to justify himself, so he asked Jesus, "And who is my neighbor?" Let's back up for one more moment, if you'll allow me, and turn to some Old Testament passages, because this expert in the law and Jesus have been, not sparring is the right word, but they've been quoting the Old Testament to one another, all right? And so I think it's helpful to go look at those passages and see what it is that they've been saying. So turn, if you would, to page 130 or Deuteronomy chapter 6. 130 or Deuteronomy chapter 6, whichever is easier for you to get to. And this is for the Jew, not so much for us anymore these days, although it's a perfectly good passage to memorize and know.